So what we're going to work on first is we're going to work on all the red areas because we need to build up the red the most on the canvas. The green as well, but we have to build up this red, okay? So we're taking red with a little bit of orange in it, okay? So don't think that you're going to attain this color after one coat, okay? We're going to build it up. Like I said, I'm going to teach you how to dry brush. First, I want you to hold your brush down by the metal, okay? Don't hold it back here because you won't have as much control. Also, like I'll get shaky if I use my arms all day long because of my back and my spinal cord injury. So what I do is I rest my hand on the canvas in a dry area of the canvas. Don't hold your brush up here in the air without your hand resting because you can't stay as steady that way, okay? Where we're gonna apply a little bit of pressure is when we're making an outline, okay? We're gonna use the skinny part of the brush, use it horizontally when we're making an outline. When we go on the inside, we're gonna lift off our pressure and we're gonna use the wide part of the brush. All the time, we're gonna lift off our pressure. Lift off, lift off, lift off. We're not gonna press hard. When we lay our brush down, it's gonna be very soft. You wanna pay attention to that because if you press hard and pull off, you're gonna get a stop mark there, which means like a line there, okay? And we want a feathered mark, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by right here at the end, and I'm gonna apply a little bit of pressure. We're gonna build this up, so don't use a lot of paint. Also, when you're working with acrylics, you don't want to outline everything all at one time because it does dry fairly quickly, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to outline as I'm going around. I'm so excited to see everybody's paintings with this. Oh my goodness, so excited. I just posted this yesterday and the feedback was fantastic. So I'm excited to see everybody's. So when I come back and I start layering this up, I'm going to leave a little bit of darkness in here to make it look like it's shadowed and there's a crease in here. If you paint something all one shade, it's going to look completely flat. But if you have some highlights, see there's highlights like the light is hitting on this side, catching a little of this side. And right here, because it's folded over, it'll be a little bit darker. So you want shadows and you want highlights. So your painting looks three-dimensional, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this around here, all right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my brush over and I'm going to follow the shape and I'm going to lift off, okay? Lift off, lift off. So we're going to make like a feathered mark and we're going to lift off, all right? This is, I'm trying not to flip it for you just yet, but generally I would turn this on its side and I have a really good angle to lift off, all right? Again, don't have a lot of paint, okay? I actually am gonna turn it so I'm more comfortable so I can paint again. So I wanna make sure that I'm always comfortable. Don't put so much orange in that paint that it turns orange, okay? We still want it to be, red. Also, there's gonna be a shadow next time we come around right behind the brim of the hat because it'd be shadowed by all those little, fuzzy things there. So as I'm pulling this across, I'm lifting off. Also, what's important about dry brushing is you're using the back of the brush right here. You're not like this, you're like this. Even when I teach my students in the classrooms like school was in today, and I was showing them that, it changes their painting so much. You have less stop marks. You're feathering your painting, like you're feathering off when you're using that back part of the brush instead of like sticking that top in there all the time. And you would not believe, like they were so shocked. We had some new students today too, and they were like very shocked how much that changed their painting, So I had the best thing happen in class today. So we work with this one school where the children have very hard lives. And so we had a new student in that class. And I could tell like he's, has a hard life. And so it's just so rewarding to work with him. But he's very timid at first to start painting. I could tell he was catching on like so fast. It was so fantastic to see. This is my first coat. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to start a little bit over from this side and get a little bit more paint in here. But anyway, so he said to me, he was like, that guy who paints like, with all the lines and the lights. And I was like, Van Gogh. And he's like, yeah. He said, I'd love to paint with him. And I said, I just did a class, Starry Night class on Friday. Let me show you the painting. And you should have seen his face. And so I gave him my painting and the reaction was unbelievable. Okay. So this time we're gonna start adding a little bit of white to the pile, okay? So I'm gonna get my my red with my orange. End of the day, I lose my words. Okay, a little bit of white, not too much. We're gonna brighten it a little, and then we'll come back with some better highlights, okay? But you'll see this time around, it's gonna change, we're gonna have some low lights in here this time, just to make sure there's nothing in my hand. So I'm gonna go to the brighter areas first, all right? Look how bright. All right, I'm gonna lift off as I come down, because the bottom part, make sure you're feathering that mark out. The bottom part is gonna be a little bit shadowed, okay? So I'm gonna go here and pull down. You can have almost like a little dip right in there as well. And remember, this is not the last time we're coming through this, not the last time. All right, so don't worry. A little bit more paint maybe right here. I'm using the back side of the brush. I'm pulling it down through here, but only when I have a little bit of paint left on my brush, okay? So I'm gonna go around this side over here. I'm gonna be turning this soon. Pulling from the back side. Look how I'm holding my brush at an angle. And I press a little bit harder whenever I see that I have very little paint on my brush, all right? So here, we wanna leave a little bit of shadow. So we're not gonna bring that color up into there. This time, also when I'm over here, I'm not gonna grab much white. I'm just gonna grab my red with my orange. Very light touch coming through here because I want this shadow to remain, okay? So we have that. All right. I want a little bit of brightness on this edge because I feel like the light always catches the edge just a little bit. All right, see how it's changing? A little bit of white. All right, I'm flipping my canvas. I am. All right, so I'm going to start on this side because I need to be able to easily, a little bit of pressure there, start pulling this across. All right. I want my angle where I can pull this like this with the back side. All right, I need a little bit more paint. But this is the art of dry brushing because you can really, especially if you're on a black canvas and you don't have to build that up first, you can really create a lot of dimension by learning how to dry brush for sure, because then you're like leaving the low lights in there, you're adding highlights in there. I'm also going to make it brighter right here towards the middle, because if it's brighter in the center, your eye is going to think that that's coming out towards you, because if it's brighter, it looks like it's closer, okay? But how I do this is I'm going to let off my pressure very lightly. When I put my brush down, I'm going to put it down very softly. Make sure I don't have a lot of paint. If you look at the back of this brush, there's not a lot of paint. If I go like this, barely any comes out on my hand, okay? So I don't want a lot of paint. And also don't build like a little rectangle in there. Like one stroke could be longer, one stroke could be shorter, even though it narrows as it goes up, okay? Because you don't want it to be like just like a box in there. So if you're seeing a box, what you do is you grab your, your colors from the sides and pull it back in, all right? I'm gonna go starting from here again, maybe a little bit more white. Now, black canvases can be a little bit of a pain sometimes where you'll create what we call a wet spot that doesn't want to hold paint. If you keep going over a spot over and over and over again, and then it's creating a spot where it's not holding the paint at all, that's when you need to let it dry or blow dry it. And then you want a very soft touch in order to get that paint to stay. So I'm just pulling over some brightness where I would think it's going to be the brightest, okay? So I don't ever have my perspective until I flip my painting back up again, all right? And then I have my perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull here. I'm going to lift off because I want to catch a little bit of light here, all right? Rub that with my finger a little bit. I might put a little bit more brightness in the center. So that means grabbing a tiny bit of white, okay? And remember how I lay it down. I don't want a lot of paint. Light touch till I know how much paint I have on there. And then I'm just going to make that a little bit more narrow as I go up. A little bit. So this is about how I want it, and then I'm going to add some white highlights to it, and then we'll move back down. Okay, so I think I'm okay with that. This little patch right here, rub it a little bit with my finger. Sometimes if it, you know, is standing out to you, you can just like smudge it just a little bit. Now the last step is really what's going to make this come together. Of course, we have little white lines at the end where we're going to make everything pop. We're not doing that right now. Like we're not putting these, you know, bright white lines on here just yet. We're just going to highlight with a little bit more white, like around the edges. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take very lightly a little bit of white and I'm going to feather that in tiny bit. Just put a little bit more of a highlight coming in from the edges. And I'm going to lift off my pressure. And then at the end, what we'll do is we will go back and put like a really nice white highlight on here with a script liner, which is a really fine, thin brush, okay? I just want to get this last coat on here. And then again, I know I might drive you crazy with that a little bit, but it's how I'm comfortable painting. So my apologies, so switch it around. Okay. I'm just going to go here. I'm going to pull this over, pull over, pull over. All right. Just let this get a little bit brighter towards the edge and let it feather in. Okay. Don't have like a big, chunky, thick, you know, line right there. You want to just lightly pull it in. Let it fade. All of your strokes are lifting off, okay? So I'm going to get a little bit more in the center. Not a lot. I don't think it needs a lot. A little bit. A little scuffing right here. The back of the brush. And then I'm going to catch this edge. Bring it in a little bit.